Shalom Yeladim v'Chag Sameach. Today I'll be speaking about Stealing by Carol Ann Duffy. So, first off, the speaker is a female, and I mainly got this conclusion because in lines 2 and 3 it says, "He looked magnificent, a tall white mute beneath the winter moon." So this shows that there must be some sort of attraction to a male figure, and so that would most likely be a norm for a female. So that's how I came to that conclusion. And then in addition to that, line 7 shows here, "He weighed a ton, his torso frozen stiff, hugged to my chest, a fierce piercing my gut, fierce chill piercing my gut." It kind of seems how the way it's written, it's in more of an admiration, a language that sort of admires a male. So that's also leading to why I would suspect it's a female. Okay, so this is kind of a confusing poem in regards that to it's very controversial to who it could be about, because it is very very vague, I guess, in that sense. And so basically it says, "The most unusual thing I've ever stole, a snowman." And then so it goes on. There's a little bit of a tense change later that Amanda will go over. And then it ends with another question, and it says, "You don't understand a word I'm saying, do you?" And so basically this would lead the audience or the reader, like us, to believe that the female, as I've stated before, is speaking to a snowman that maybe she stealing. So I kind of took from it that the occasion is an interrogation, talking to a snowman, but we all know that snowmen don't really talk unless it's like Frosty or something. That's weird. So it kind of seems like she was talking to herself. And so here you can kind of see it says, "I wanted him a mate with a mind as cold as a slice of ice within my own brain." So here she's kind of the speaker is kind of hinting towards how they see the snowman, the mate, as sort of a reflection of themselves. So that would probably be the first thing to lead you to believe that she is kind of just going through a stream of thought, just talking to herself, basically. The audience is the snowman, but we historical value to it. Something about something in the 80s, I'm not sure. The subject is her stealing habits. So from this, you kind of take that maybe the speaker is some sort of psychopath or something. We don't know. It seems that she seems to show very little remorse in her actions. Where here it says, "Boredom. Mostly I'm bored. So bored I could eat myself. One time I stole a guitar and thought I might learn to play. I nicked a bust of Shakespeare, once flogged it, but the snowman was the strangest." She kind of just goes over these things like they're really nothing, where she's just stealing, and kind of seems like it's a normal process in her daily life, with which is quite different to how we see stealing. She's right here. "Sometimes I steal things I don't need. I joyride cars to nowhere, break into houses just to have a look." So she's just kind of stealing because she wants to, because she can, because, I don't know, the thrill. So it's kind of deep, but we don't really know what the subject is. We can just assume that she's kind of just going over this internal conflict in her head about what she's doing. Maybe there's something in her that's saying that she shouldn't be doing it. So she's questioning her own actions, maybe. I don't know, coming to her senses in a way. So that's what I took from it. The tone seems very sinister and mocking. And so, like I said before, how she seems to show very little remorse to her actions. It would seem that she is sort of sinister. Here it says, "Part of the thrill was knowing that children would cry in the morning. Life's tough." It's a very cruel statement. You usually don't really assume that somebody would be cruel to children like that, but she says here, the speaker says here, how they find a thrill in it. So that also kind of leads back to how the whole occasion of this poem is a psychopath, because they keep showing these strange behaviors. Um, yeah, I'll throw it over to Amanda.
Thanks, Josh. I'm going to continue by talking about the structure of the poem. So as you can see, this poem has 5 stanzas, and in each stanza there's 5 lines. Within each stanza, the lines are of varying sentence lengths, and this is to show that, in a sense, the subject has no meaning. So varying sentence lengths show that there's no structure, there's no meaning, it doesn't make any sense. And this in turn illustrates that the subject, which is stealing, doesn't make any sense and it has no meaning. The theme of this poem is narcissism and greed. And these things are shown throughout the poem. In one way that narcissism is shown is by the repetition of the I sound. For example, I ever stole, I wanted him, I started, I steal, I don't need, I joyride, I watch, I sigh, I took a run, I stole, I nicked, I might. So all of these I sounds are used to show that the speaker is obsessed with themselves and all they want to talk about is themselves, and they're not concerned with anything else. This is especially seen in the 3rd stanza where it says, I sigh like this. This has a specifically intense repeating of the I sound, and this shows that all of the emotion is put on the speaker instead of the people being robbed. The other theme of the poem is greed, and greed is shown throughout the poem when the speaker talks about how meaningless it is for for them to steal things. For example, sometimes I steal things I don't need, and also in the 5th stanza it says, I stole guitar and thought I might learn to play, or I nicked a bust of Shakespeare once, and the fact that they stole a snowman. All of these things are meaningless and they really are of no importance to the speaker, yet they feel the need to take it anyway, and this is greedy because they don't think of others, but they're only thinking of themselves. The title of this poem is Stealing, and stealing is very straightforward. It could mean, in a literal sense, stealing, the title of this poem means the stealing of the snowman and of the other various things that the speaker has stolen. But this title doesn't specify that it's the speaker stealing. So the fact that it's simply stealing shows that it's universal and it applies to a lot of people. So it could be stealing of objects, stealing of material things, but it could also be interpreted as stealing of personality or stealing of oneself. And this stealing of oneself is shown in the interpretation of the 3rd stanza, which could be interpreted in 2 different ways. One way that the 3rd stanza could be interpreted is that when the speaker goes into the stranger's bedroom, they are watching themselves twist the doorknob, and there's mirrors all around. So they're seeing themselves in the stranger's bedroom, stealing whatever it is that this person is going to steal, something meaningless it would probably be. And it could just be interpreted as the speaker is going into a stranger's bedroom and they're seeing themselves through the mirrors, maybe through the camera lens, and it's all about them and they don't really care about the other person. But it could also be interpreted in the sense that the stranger's bedroom is actually the bedroom of the speaker themselves, where she's looking in the mirrors and she's seeing herself as a stranger. That's why she's watching herself twist the doorknob as if she wasn't herself, but it was really a different person. Now, there's a lot of imagery in this poem, including kinesthetic, visual, and some tactile. For an example of kinesthetic imagery is in line 17 here, where it says, I took a run and booted him. This is kinesthetic imagery because it shows the action of him running and kicking the snowman down. Now, this imagery, along with the imagery of the mirrors and the doorknob and watching in the third stanza, all show how the speaker is obsessed with appearance. So in the fourth stanza, the speaker... Sorry about that. So as I was saying, in the fourth stanza, the speaker mentions that he didn't look the same anymore. Speaking of the snowman. So the snowman didn't look the same when he was reassembled in the yard of the speaker. And this is why the speaker decided to run and kick it down. So this shows that the speaker is obsessed with the image of the snowman, which can be interpreted as being a reflection of the speaker. So the speaker sees the snowman as himself. So throughout the poem, as Josh said earlier, the audience is the snowman, but also herself, being that she sees herself in the snowman, and in her own yard it looks different than in someone else's yard. Also, this repetition of the word again shows sort of a childish type of language, like a child yelling again, again. And also the short sentences, the one-word sentences, show a rapid moving action. And then also, my breath ripped out in rags. That's also ripped rags, shows a speeding sound, and it shows that it's going faster. So there are many cliches throughout this poem that go alongside with the expression of a mocking tone towards people that steal. For example, the phrase, better off dead than giving in. You've heard people say that before. It's a cliche. I'd rather be dead than do that. And this shows that, first of all, the speaker has no remorse for stealing things, but also that the speaker, or Duffy, in fact, is mocking the sense of stealing itself. So Duffy also uses diction to show how the speaker doesn't want to see themselves in a deeper way. They only want to merely see the surface. For example, the fact that the snowman is a white mute, using the word mute shows that the speaker is attracted to the snowman, which is mute, because there's no way for the snowman to criticize what the speaker is doing, which is stealing. So in a sense, the snowman is the side of the speaker that just does things out of instinct and doesn't really see any of the consequences with it. So there's no criticism, and the stealing then in turn becomes okay for the speaker. One of the last things Duffy does is use the use of questions. For example, the very first sentence is, the most unusual thing I ever stole. And of course, this suggests that the speaker is answering someone who has asked the question, what is the most unusual thing that you ever stole? But it's also, in a sense, she's speaking to herself because she's trying to give some sense or make some sense out of this thing that she's doing, which is stealing. And also, in the very last line, the last question, you don't understand a word I'm saying, do you? This question is used to show that the speaker is now speaking to us. She's saying that we don't understand what she's saying or what she's doing, and that might be a reflection of the fact that the speaker herself doesn't understand why or what she's doing.